I'm doing a really impromptu quick sketchbook tour because I didn't manage to get my post out this week. So hello, Katie. Um, Thank you for joining. Hello, Wiz. Thank you for joining. I'm going to very, very quickly show you my Pith sketchbook. What's the idea behind this sketchbook? Well, this is the Pith Cara Cara, and I started it in September, finished it in March this year. I have one sketchbook which I use purely for my own personal explorations. It might be observational drawings, it might be stuff that is just on my mind, it might be moments from life. But the idea is that it is not any of my projects. It's not any ongoing work that I'm doing for my portfolio. This is my life stuff and fun stuff and weird experiments. Thank you, Katie. Every time I finish one of these piths, which I'm obsessed with, Katie, I know that they're Berwick based where you are, and I'm a complete obsessive for these now, completely converted. Hey, Beth. So when I finish one, I now have this little ritual where I just put the little date on the front. I'm going to do a super quick flick through for y'all. This one is I started off with the swatches here. Now, if anyone is, and I'm sure many people are, a fan of Victoria Semikina, an incredible illustrator, well, I got this inspiration from her Patreon. She demonstrated how she got some old eyeshadow palettes from a thrift store and she filled it with watercolor. And I was like, whoa, that is genius. But this was not from a thrift store. This was my first fancy makeup palette I bought in 2001, back in the day from New York. So it's quite a special thing. And somehow it's still knocking around in my life all these years later. But look. Da, 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 da. It's even better than eyeshadow. So I have filled these with some really sort of simple primaries, 2 yellows, a red, 2 blues, and just a nice color. And so I was playing with that, and obviously the bonkers pink that you get from Shinhan Pass. And I was doing some swatching. So this series of colors that you see here is what my little makeup palette thingy allows me to play with. And I think it's just, the funny thing is, beyond this page, honestly, I have not used it. I've filled the whole damn thing and I have hardly used this, but it doesn't matter because this is nice, right? So I'm going to try and do this nice and quick so that, everyone can enjoy their weekend. So this is my dog, Nala Bear, as I call her. She's a giant schnauzer, and my little feet in there. This is actually what I've done there. So that was an observational painting I did with this palette. It's terrible, isn't it? But it doesn't matter because so many pages are terrible in sketchbooks. That's the whole point. And this is an observational sketch I've done with a brush pen while I was waiting for my kid outside his kindergarten to pick him up. And it was just a beautiful autumn day. I started this in September. So yeah, it was autumny at that point. Love a brush pen. Obsessed. Then I thought, let me get a fancy with it. And I added a bit more darker tones and some graphite. The dark tone is maybe a bit heavy, a bit overkill, but that's okay. It's fine, right? It's still nice. Sleeping kid. He was still falling asleep in cars and nowhere else. But so, mum life. And then this was our friend Eva, an amazing artist. I have to do a post about her because she's incredible. We were in London and we visited her and we hung out. And while she was chatting to my husband, I did some sketches of her observationally with the brush pens. There's something about brown and red that is just so nice. So that was great. Loved that. Random cat drawing. I was trying to figure out ways to do more than just line work, but I always just like line work. So what are you going to do? And then a gouache painting. I got a little set of, well, not a little set. It was my first set of Iridori Holbein paints from the spring palette last year. So I started playing with those a little bit, and this was nice. I did a sketch as a memory of going to Kew Gardens with my mum, and it turned out really badly. So I just butchered it and went over the top with Neocolor. And I quite like the result of the butchering. This was a painting that I made as from image from my camera roll. So it was just one of those amazing autumn days, and I saw lots of colors in the scene. And I don't do plein air because I'm just too lazy and it's too cold, and I'm usually focusing on my dog when I'm out. So this was just a quick uh, series of images I took on my phone. Then I came home and played with them in my sketchbook. My dog. And some experimentation, which didn't really work out. And then here is a series of experiments that I did as part of Folktale Week last year. Each one in this book is done in a slightly different style, just as I was playing with style a bit and trying to figure out what I liked. So I took some thumbnails that I had done and just tried to execute them in a number of different ways. Some of them are more successful than others. This was fun. And so I just tried to do each one in a completely different way, and not worry about them being a series as such. So it was nice to just have that as something to play with. I quite like the way this one turned out. That's kind of nice. This one was the one that didn't work at all. And then by the time I got to the end, I was getting really bored. So I was just like, oh, let me just put some flowers on it. It's fine. This is an observational painting I made with Japanese Ganzai paints that I was gifted. Every time we have flowers on our table, I try and do an observational, quick capture of them in some way. So that was really nice. And another one from the same series, lots of bright colours, trying to keep it loose. I'm quite impressed with the way that the Japanese Ganzai watercolour paints do actually layer on top of one another quite well. It's surprising. It's surprising how punchy they can be. I know they're a gouache hybrid, but I always somehow forget that and think that they don't have the intensity of color, but they do. It's really nice. We have a cactus plant that flowers every Christmas, and it feels like magic that actually it does flower at Christmas every year, and it always blows my mind. It is called a Christmas cactus, so it kind of figures, but it's stunning. So I painted that, and then some like ideas around journaling, playing with some New Year stuff, bit of a selfie, and swatching some winter colours with pencil. And again, I was just playing with color swatching here. I really enjoy the Pith paper for taking quite a lot. I think the joke on this was that I was trying to use pastels, soft pastels, which actually I hate. So, and I ended up going over the top with pencil anyway. So it's a nice spread. Some little icon sketches that I made with my beautiful, beautiful kakimori nib. I was making these as little note sketches to put into my newsletter. And then, just a bit more line work with that same nib. And I was also experimenting with how many different sorts of marks I could make, and just playing with the weight I could explore with this nib, and just decided to do a page of textures to have some fun with it and not worry too much about the image making side, but just exploring mark making. And then some journaly type stuff. The kid, we said goodbye to one of the family dogs at the beginning of the year. And another painting, observational painting. And almost done. This to finish was just a graphite only pencil, just with a Palomino Blackwing. I was gazing at our living room table that was just full of stuff. And instead of getting frustrated at the mess, I just did a sketch of it all. It's like, let's just do a nice little capture, because, it, in a way, although it was a bit annoying that it was so much mess, it was also one of those moments where I thought, well, it's life. That's what life is. Life is a messy dining table full of dishes that need to be cleaned. And that's okay. And the flowers were dying because I hadn't gotten around to sorting them out. But I quite like it for the fact that it was a capture of a real moment. And then at the back, it's just some more swatching of materials. And that is my Pith Cara Cara September till March only personal experimentation sketchbook, which has been just, I love it. I love it so much. Um, of course, this isn't the only sketchbook I worked in. I've been working on multiple sketchbooks at the same time, but I give those all separate objectives. Excuse me. So I like to give them like specific projects, or I might be exploring certain themes. And yeah, I try to keep the things which are interesting to me in terms of like visual journaling or things from my camera roll or observational stuff. I try and keep that as separate to all of the projects I'm working on, because those then feel more like these are like journals of my life. So thank you for joining me on this really impromptu Friday afternoon sketchbook tour. Big fan of Pith. If anyone knows anyone at Pith, please like tell them I love them. And thank you for being here. Have a wonderful weekend.